Oh, hi, and welcome back as today we once again gather by the fire in anticipation of Christmas for our virtual Advent calendar. Yesterday, I spoke to you a little bit about the song of the suffering servant in Isaiah 52 and 53. I'd like to read you a little bit more of this passage so you can appreciate the larger context that we're going to be discussing today. Here we read, "Look, my servant will succeed. He will be exalted and lifted very high. Just as many were appalled by you, he too appeared disfigured, inhuman, his appearance unlike that of mortals. But he will astonish many nations. Kings will be silenced because of him, because they will see what they haven't seen before, what they haven't heard before. They will ponder. Who can believe what we have heard? And for whose sake has the Lord's arm been revealed? He grew up like a young plant before us, like a root from dry ground. He possessed no splendid form for us to see, no desirable appearance. He was despised and avoided by others, a man who suffered, who knew sickness well, like someone from whom people hid their faces. He was despised, and we didn't think about him. It was certainly our sickness that he carried, our sufferings that he bore, but we thought him afflicted, struck down by God, and tormented. He was pierced because of our rebellions and crushed because of our crimes. He bore the punishment that made us whole. By his wounds we are healed. Like sheep we had all wandered away, each going its own way, but the Lord let fall on him all our crimes. He was oppressed and tormented, but didn't open his mouth. Like a lamb being brought to the slaughter, like a ewe silent before her shearers, he didn't open his mouth. Due to an unjust ruling, he was taken away, and his fate, who will think about it? He was eliminated from the land of the living, struck dead because of my people's rebellion. His grave was among the wicked, his tomb with evildoers, though he had done no violence and had spoken nothing false. But the Lord wanted to crush him and make him suffer. If his life is offered as restitution, he will see his offspring. He will enjoy long life. The Lord's plans will come to fruition through him. After his deep anguish, he will see light, and he will be satisfied. Through his knowledge, the righteous one, my servant, will make many righteous and will bear their guilt. Therefore I will give him a share with the great, and he will divide the spoil with the strong, in return for exposing his life to death and being counted among the criminals, though he carried the sins of many and pleaded on behalf of those who rebelled." It's the last part of that passage, though we hear in it so many echoes of Jesus' death and sacrifice on our behalf, that I want to concentrate. This idea that in return for exposing his life to death and being counted with criminals, he carried the sin of many. In the Gospel according to Mark chapter 15, we read in this simple sentence in verse 27, "They crucified two criminals with him, one on his right and one on his left." The fulfillment of that long ago prophecy contained in the song of the suffering servant. Christ was indeed counted among the criminals. And friends, I find it is no surprise that particularly as we begin to go through the events of the last day of Christ on this earth among the living, we find so many echoes back in prophecy. Because surely it's there where we would need to be able to look to see God's hand at work the most. It's there we would look to find comfort in the time of suffering that Christ endured. And perhaps in seeing that, we can find comfort during our own times of solitude and suffering as well. Well, friends, that's about all the time we have for today. Thank you once again for tuning in to join us. Remember, this is our Father's world. Goodbye, and God bless.